Good morning, Trump's family. Thank you for joining me. How are you? Have a nice weekend, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, now we will come to today's news. And some new disturbing details between Kamala Harris and Jill Biden has been revealed here recently. And we know the tension and the iciness of these two individuals of the Biden team, and commodity, and because they absolutely hate each other to hate each other during their primaries, and the only reason she was put onto the ticket was because she was black, Asian, and a woman. I guess they could still find what that is. But we understand what's been going on in the dynamics, and we know that the long-term plan for the Democrats' swamp in the swamp itself was to go ahead and insert Kamala Harris into the presidency and make Joe Biden resign. Well, that isn't going very well with Jill Biden, the steam doctor, nurse Jill Biden, who continuously is using couch patterns and tablecloths for dresses as she continues to tend to her mentally unwell husband. So what we have here coming to us from Wayne Dupree is disturbing new details leaked out about Jill and Kamala's relationship. That's right. So we come down here. It says, according to OK Magazine and their sources over at the White House, Jill is furious and believes that Kamala never cared about Joe or the job, and just wanted to ride Joe's shaky old coattails to further her political career. That's not the only thing she probably wrote. Well done, Jill. She also believes Kamala in popularity is what dragging down Joe. OK reported that Dr. Jill isn't supportive of the first female vice president of America, and Insider previously divulged to OK that the women have never gotten along. Jill despises Kamala, make no mistake about it, the source dish, Dr. Biden, has. Dr. Biden told her husband that he should never have chosen Kamala, as is ready to make newsflash Joe, he didn't have a choice. And she believed he would have won regardless of who else was on a ticket. Yeah, I probably believe that too, because the fix was in. The Insider also alleged that the mother of one believes Harris' behavior is what caused the POTUS ratings drop. Really? Jewel is seething. Earlier this week she fumed publicly by Joe's unpopularity. Privately she's blaming the vice president for all domestic, said a second source. She thinks Kamala has been disloyal, and only took the vice presidency to get a leg up on her political ambitions. The First Lady thinks Kamala has used Joe, as she has used many other men in the past. I believe that this is true. We've heard too many rumors and stories from the source on both the right and left about the feud between Kamala and Jill, for not to be true. And I think Jill is having a real hard time coming up to terms with the fact that her husband is less popular than her nemesis, Quorum Pop. America would rather have Quorum popping the White House. I wish somebody would do that poll. But seriously, I don't know if Jill is living in some alternate reality where her husband is the next candidate for the nursing home. And that's why she seemed shocked over his polls, and why he hasn't caught on. I really don't understand how this can be, since she lives with him. And she must be 100 times worse behind the scenes. I guess. She refuses to accept reality, and sadly, because of that the entire country has suffered. Yes, because a lot of things that have been taking place in this country is because it has suffered because of the things that the swamp, the media, the deep state, the unit party, all of these factors to corporations who wanted Orange ban out, and in wanting to instead install their globalist puppet who they now have in there, but they're realizing that their puppet is not very good at delivering their utopia paradise to the rest of America. And the House passed this assault weapons ban. And they did it along party lines. It passed 2017 to 2023. There actually were some Democrats that sided with Republicans in voting this bill down. This bill down was sponsored by a Democrat, the assault weapons ban that yesterday that was even on the no one saw it coming. Nancy Pelosi rushed it through and then went through yesterday before they go into their long recess. Here's the good news. It's most likely doomed in the Senate. And looks like it's going to be doomed in the Senate. Democrats under the bill, which is very similar to a 1994 bill, is essentially as a sanctuary in the wake of a string of high-profile shootings in recent months. Quite simply, there is no place for them on our streets, said Waddling, Jerry Nadler. Republicans, on the other hand, are against the bill as a violation of law-abiding citizens' Second Amendment rights, as it should be. So this is what happens. The initiative, the bill, was set for consideration on July 27. However, the bill was delayed after infighting among Democrats threw in doubt about the possibility of advancing legislation through the House, because Democrats hold the lower chamber by 4 seats. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi couldn't afford to lose a single vote on the legislation, which is likely to face unified GOP opposition. Okay, so they quickly got it to the House Judiciary Committee. But when it goes to the Senate, it is almost certainly failed to gain the 10 GOP votes needed to overcome the 60-vote filibuster threshold. So it was a symbolic move out of it appears luckily for us. Alright. Here's another confirmation of a story that I reported on. If you recall, or if you don't recall, I reported on how the Biden regime has plans to give illegal aliens identifications. Okay. President Joe Biden's administration has confirmed a plan that would give identification cards to illegal immigrants. The pilot program from Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, is aimed at modernizing documentation provided to some non-citizens being illegal aliens, because they're either citizens. They're here legally on a visa, are they residents, are they illegal aliens. And this ICE ID is not for residents, because that would be a green card. It's no longer green, by the way. They still call it a green card, think it's got a little green on it. I have to ask a couple of my friends who are residents here United States to see what their cards look like. But why don't my wife had one kind of laugh because it wasn't green. And if they're here on a visa, then you just wouldn't count them up. They will need identification, they would have a passport and their visa permission to be here. So when they talk about non-citizens, they try to confuse the issue. They're talking about illegal aliens. Quote, currently non-citizens receive paper documents from the federal government about the immigration status. Proper documentation paper documents, poses security risks or easily lost and degrade rapidly in real-world use. Creating inefficient. We now care about efficiencies for illegal aliens. Under Mayorkas and this regime that has been the case the last 18+ months. Moving to secure card will save the agency millions free of resources and ensure information is quickly accessible to DHS officials while reducing the agency's FOIA backlog. Well, now, of course, you myself and some Republicans are expressing worries about the program, say that the Biden administration should work on cracking down on illegal immigration instead of making it easier. You know, people are breaking into our houses anyway. So what we should do is we should give them a universal key that opens every door. That way they don't have to break the windows to get in. It's inefficient to replace windows and put bars on windows. So we should give trespassers, and home invaders, universal skeleton keys that open every door in America and an overriding PIN for anyone with a keypad. I mean, it's just inefficient to have to change the locks, to have to change security codes and secure homes, so we should make it easier for the thieves to get in. Okay, this next story, also a follow-up to not a follow-up. I guess it's an additional story to foreign companies buying farmland. Okay, Midwest landowners fighting the construction of a 2,000-mile web of carbon capture pipelines are upset to learn that the company seeking easements on their land is funded by foreign investors. So we have these landowners, many of them having ranch and farmlands in Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, South Dakota and North Dakota. There's this massive Midwest carbon capture project that is going to capture the carbon and put it back in the earth as part of the green strategy to lower carbon emissions. And one of the companies involved in this. No, it's not Chinese, it's actually SKENS. It's a South Korean-based energy company. But here's something about their troubled past. It's a subsidiary of SK Inc. And the Army suspended SK in 2017. From future contracting throughout the executive branch of the U.S. government. This is a company that has a 7% stake with the parent of a conglomerate of investors getting into this, but they have a substantial stake. And in 2008, SK got a U.S. Army construction contract at Camp Humphreys in South Korea. It was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And according to the DOJ, FK paid millions of dollars to a fake Korean construction company, which then paid that money to a contracting official with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You say U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I say U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. But who was it? Who called them the corps? Yeah, that was Obama. Remember, when we had to deal with Obama? Guess what? We still have to deal with him right now. Except his frontman. This time as he sits as a presidential whisperer in a basement somewhere as Potato Head. Joe. So as Kay admitted, about 7 years ago, its employees burned many documents related to the contracts so that the investigators couldn't find out what really happened. In other words, it was a pay-to-play scheme. And now, oddly enough, they have part of the scheme for carbon capture in the Midwest. Gotta love the well-being sarcastic here, the ridiculousness of the current regime. Okay, folks, breadlines in America, seeing pictures here, of Americans who are struggling to afford basic necessities, why their rent has gone up. Their fuel costs to get to work to make the money to barely cover the rent takes up the second portion. And then what's left over is what they use to buy food. That's how it works: shelter first. And then fuel to get to the job to pay for that shelter. And then food. The price index increased by 10.8% in 2022, the largest 12-month percentage increase since 1980. You know, the last year there of the Carter administration? Oh, I'm not making this up, folks. This is according to the Consumer Price Index from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is a government statistic. Cereal is up 15%, chicken is up by 17.4%, that's the largest increase ever recorded, by the way. The price of eggs has increased by 33%. Prices of pork are up 13.3%, bacon specifically up 15%, milk 15.9%. So not only do we have this shortage, by the way, it's still going on, not being reported. It's kind of been swept under the rug. But the formula shortage is still a thing. According to a mother that I spoke to on a plane, going to Salt Lake flying back to Utah in Salt Lake City a few weeks ago. 15.9% milk, coffee is up 15.3%, fruits and veggies up 8.2%. That's the most economical thing to eat right now. Our fruits and veggies are up less than other things. And eating at restaurants has increased by 7.4%. People ask, and I report on this, why is that eating out hasn't gone up as much as other things? So because they have economies of scale and restaurants know what they've increased their prices too much. People just won't come in because we're in inflation. And now we're in a recession. So look in your local neighborhood, you'll find that restaurants have cut their hours and their staff. Here's blood breadlines in America. Let's go to Boise, Idaho, where my wife went to school. My wife went to BSU. According to Meridian Food Bank over there, the meal served to families has doubled over the past year from 2,000 and something to over 4,200. Same thing for Care House Food Bank. They said that, the COVID lockdown's a little tough, then things recovered and now it's up even above during that time. Wow. Let's move over to Allentown, Pennsylvania. They are reporting a 20% increase in the number of people in need of free food. They went from 300 families to 1,800. Wow. And many are first-timers. These are people for the first time meeting. Let's go over to Arizona. The Phoenix Food Bank's main distribution center doled out food packages to 44,271 families at the end of June. That's a 78% increase during the same week last year. And it's just getting worse and worse. Alameda County Food Bank in Northern California, according to Associated Press, has ticked up above the pandemic. At the Houston Food Bank, the largest food bank in the U.S., an average of 610,000 pounds is now being given out daily of food. Wow. That's up 500,000 pounds a day. Thank you, Joey, as a frontman for the globalist agenda. This is all by design, folks, to starve us, to destroy America, weaken us. So they can do whatever they want, and will be too hungry to do anything about it, can't afford the fuel to even go out and protest. And we're probably homeless, because house prices are way high, and only the upper middle class and rich and some middle class will be able to afford them depending on the market. And by the way, Hershey Co. warns of Halloween and Christmas candy shortage. We can add that to the list of baby formula. Female hygiene products, you can define for yourself what a female on a woman is. And peanut butter. Okay, so America as a whole, both Democrats and Republicans do not want Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. in 2024. So 68% of voters said they don't want Biden to see re-election. He's going to be, even if they like Joe Biden, which is very few, he's going to be it too. And he's already showing massive signs. Now, of course, he didn't say he's gonna run, or didn't indicate that he was running. But then Corinne Jean-Pierre said, no, he's running in 2024. As of played on the show, Democrats have been asked that they support him and running in 2024. And they usually just kind of skirt or circumvent or try to avoid answering the question, which, of course, is a form of saying no. So who is it that they want? All right? This is according to new polling. The recent Suffolk University USA Today survey suggests the following. For 2024, when asked who in the Democratic Party voters want to see run for president in 2024, Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders tie for first place. They have almost 20% each. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg is at 16%. So it's actually 18% each for Harris and Sanders, and Buttigieg is right below them. Why, I have no idea. Once I'll get to something later at the end of this episode that shows that once again, and you had one job, Pete Mayor, Pete, you had one job. We'll get to that much later in this episode. Also, here's some other contenders. And these are some ones that surprised me. Amy Klobuchar was actually up there. And she's above according to this poll. She's above Ocasio-Cortez. So Chloe Klobuchar is at 11% and Cortez is at 10%. And California Governor Gavin Newsom, who has probably the most name recognition for a Democrat governor. Maybe him and Whitmer are not Whitmer for any good reasons, nor Gavin Newsom. He's 2 points below Ocasio-Cortez, maybe because I'm a California to Utah transplant that I'm aware of Newsom, but I look at the national news and he gets a lot of coverage. Now, tied with Gavin Newsom is actually Hillary Clinton, who there are whispers coming from the Democrat camp, according to Fox News, that she is in fact. Now, let's go over to the Republican side. We know that Trump leads the pack, but besides Trump, who would like to see? Well, Ron DeSantis comes in second place with 34%. And here is where the polling is very interesting. Once again, this is a USA Today poll. Take this with a grain of salt. They say that a good percent, almost 10%, actually remain undecided. 7% said they would go for former Vice President Mike Pence. I think that number is inflated. Liz Cheney and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie are on the list, all with a very, very small 3% of the vote. So, if we do not have as interesting question for you. If we don't get Trump nor DeSantis for 2024, let's say both of them off the table. Is Mike Pence your guy? I know you guys have some colorful things to say about Mike Pence. But I'd like to see your thoughts if DeSantis and Trump don't run. Who would you like to see either from this list? Or from your own mind? Who would you like to see run in 2024? Sands? Trump or DeSantis? I'm curious to see your answers. Check this out. Elon Musk has countersued Twitter in a last-minute filing. Elon Musk on Friday filed a countersuit against Twitter after the social media giant scheduled a vote on the deal after Musk canceled the purchase. The 164-page lawsuit was filed under seal in Delaware's court. This is the New York Post reporting. He filed a countersuit against Twitter on Friday, escalating his legal battle with the social media company over his abandoned $44 billion agreement to take over the site. By the way, Twitter shares went down on this news. The 164-page suit was filed under seal just before the judge imposed 5 p.m. deadline. So its contents are not immediately available. We'll have a partial redacted version of it next week. So Elon Musk canceled the purchase of the company. They won't show how they get to robots. They weren't revealed information that he's asking for. Twitter scheduled a vote on the deal for September even though he backed out of it. Then they sued him to do it and he countersued them. Biden is creating a permanent U.S. Postal Service division to deliver and return ballots in U.S. elections. No comments on that story. Alright, folks, here is the truth about the big lie. The Democrat reconciliation bill is going to have zero impact on inflation, even though it's called the Inflation Reduction Act. Crazy stuff. The Democrats' marquee bill to reduce inflation would likely have zero impact on inflation. According to a study by the influential Penn-Wharton budget model, Senate Majority Chuck Schumer and Joe Manchin unveiled the Inflation Reduction Act this week, which they claimed would combat climate change, extend enhance Obamacare subsidies and reduce the budget deficit by roughly $300 billion. It's going to have an indistinguishable impact from zero and actually will increase, according to experts, in inflation, in the short term just a little bit. And another analysis says that the concurs with this, that is going to the hump. Here's how much Inflation Reduction Act will reduce inflation. Zero actually is likely to increase inflation a bit in the near term. So we have two studies, immediately cranking up the number of saying that the name and the mission is a lie, Just like the Affordable Care Act did not decrease the cost of care, healthcare, and other things that they call it reproductive healthcare when the Democrats are not interested, not at all, in reproductive health, but actually the exact opposite. This is very interesting. We know that they're busing from Texas illegal aliens over into DC and the authorities, according to ICE, and reported by NBC News. More than 6 dozen illegal aliens, including children, were found in stash houses likely operated by the Mexican drug cartels in a wealthy region of Washington, D.C. You think that's by accident now that they probably got some cover from the corrupt D.C. cops. That's all I want to report on that, just that the crime is right in the middle of the den of criminals. Now, I told you a second ago that Biden's creating a permanent U.S. Postal Service division to deliver and return ballots. Here's something that he's supposedly doing temporarily, and that's extending amnesty for 7,400 Syrians. The Biden Department of Homeland Security is extending temporary amnesty status for more than 7,400 Syrian nationals in the United States, who would otherwise be eligible for deportation. The move comes after former President Obama created the temporary protected status for Syrians and then extended it right before Trump took office. And then, all fair reporting, Trump also extended it in 2018. And now we have another extension. So I love how these temporary amnesties turn out to be permanent, like that transitory inflation that appears to be here to stay. And another thing that appears to be here to stay is backlogs off our ports. We're now seeing a huge backlog developing on the East Coast ports. Thanks, Joey. And thanks, Pete Buttigieg. I wonder if he's gonna go AWOL and have another paternal leave to know how to deal with this. If you look only at Los Angeles and Long Beach, the largest container and port gateway in America, you think shipping congestion has drastically reduced the number of ships waiting. There has fallen to 26 from a high over 100 in January. But in fact, North America port congestion has just recently re-entered record territory. The offshore traffic jam is once again as bad as it's ever been. That's according to American Shipper. So these are experts. This is an industry report to people in the shipping industry. As of Thursday morning, there were 153, the majority of East Coast and Gulf Coast ports. So the problem is back. It just shifted which coasts are being affected. Ladies and gentlemen, give me your thoughts below. And hit subscribe right now.